Part 2. Korea's second. Why is Korea second? Well, it's important to talk about the dynamic between South Korea and Japan. For a number of years, Japan annexed South Korea. After that, the more conservative groups in Japan, even after the war and after things changed a lot, they still had these feelings toward Korean immigrants, and this was pretty rough. This was really bad for Korean immigrants and for Koreans who would have liked to learn a little bit more about Japan, but of course they had their issues with Japan, as we would assume. But why am I talking about? Why the history lesson? Because the first big wave of Korean dramas really caught on going eastbound. So when Japan got a hold of it, it became a big thing, because now they were starting to understand, oh wow, this is Korean culture, this is the stuff we've been missing. People started learning more about the actors. Ooh, this actor's cute, this actress is cute, and then they were like, oh, wait a minute, hey, maybe we were kind of wrong here. You know, even politicians started opening up to perception of TV, movies, music, all that stuff started becoming really popular. Then it started going in the other direction, toward China, because that's their neighbor, obviously. And roughly about 5 years ago or so, that's when the first big foreign program started coming in from South Korea. Okay, enough talk. Let's go in. I'm going to talk about 3 of them in particular, 3 of the ones that most people associate with the genre.
I'm not going to bother to butcher the Korean language, but this is Lovers in Paris, the English title. A very standard romance. This one's My Love Patsy, essentially a little bit more toward the trendy side, a little more conventional. Then you have this incredibly serious drama called Brilliant Legacy, or Shining Inheritance.
Lovers in Paris is interesting. It shows a role that could have easily been played by a bubbly, silly, romantic, but that's not what happened. See, the thing is, Korean dramas aren't always really based on these icons that have always been around. They're really homegrown. It's a little different because they're not characters that you already have borrowed from something else. What this means is you have a female lead who's very, very real. Somebody that you can't just write as a little cartoon ideal or some two-dimensional little abstract human. And this is not saying anything bad about Japanese dramas either.
I mean, you've had the likes of Nakamayuki in some of these dramas. This was somebody who changed the role of Japanese actresses in drama, at least the trendier ones. Until her, most of these actresses did bubbly, silly roles, and she changed a lot.
But again, you have your idealism going on with the Japan dramas, usually Japan dramas. And over here you got South Korea, which is more about just everyday life and struggles and things that just go from one to the other. There's a lot of coincidence that goes on, particularly in Lovers in Paris. Every single episode always ends, and I mean every episode, this is not an exaggeration, every episode in this drama ends with a coincidental meeting of people. It's always, oh, what are you doing here? Huh? I'm not joking. No episode ends in anything other than some sort of coincidental meeting. It's a little soap opera-ish, but it's effective. It's standard but effective. But what's not standard is this female lead has a very strong presence, as I say. She's about integrity and has a couple of ideals, but she does have some compromise that she has to do. And she wrestles with that. And she wonders, well, why don't other people do that? And there are struggles with the fact that you have 2 people that care a lot about her, and you can't use your ideals in that situation. She's torn in every episode. The ideals don't always work. Sadly, though, another thing that I find in South Korean dramas is that usually the romantic ones, they don't really have like an ending. There's not really like a concise, like, happily ever after, or people die, or the war is over, or something. This leads me to the second one. This isn't the biggest South Korean drama in the world, but for some reason, like I said in the Japanese drama video, there's always the boppy-headed, slick-haired guy who's sad every time. But in this one, every time they try to do some speech and look like they're the big boss, they always get shot down. Every time. I love that even more than watching this powerful speech with the fist and ashamed of you and quoting some scripture or something and running away. Because again, South Korean dramas are very organic. It's like if you're too dramatic and if you're too much into it, even though sometimes you have to be in order to put some punches on the scene, there's always a character that puts you down to size, put your feet on the ground and says, "What's the matter with you?" My Love Patsy is nothing but that. There is no ideal character in this at all. The main female character is a regular person that you can't really completely love or completely hate. And I think that's kind of the point. It's all about taking something that's ideal and turning it on its head. So somebody who's very nice and sweet and caring on the outside is actually somebody who could be the exact opposite on the inside, and vice versa. The problem is, it's great to do that. It's great to challenge the sort of ideals that you would get maybe in a Japanese drama, but there's not really a whole lot of payoff. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm alone on this. I've checked around, I've looked at a couple blogs where they talk about dramas I haven't seen, the more serious ones, the lighthearted ones, and it seems to be a consensus. A lot of people are confused about the endings. Speaking of serious dramas, Japan used to have a lot of these shows that featured the samurai, or featured people from the Edo, or they would feature some Meiji Restoration folks. There's one right now called, let me get this right, Ryoma-den, and it's basically about Ryoma, Sakamoto Ryoma, the very influential Ronin. You know, not a lot of people my age who watch TV are going to be wanting to see something from the Wild West or the samurai period or something without a lot of splashy, flashy special effects or some jokes thrown in. And the point is, Japan went with the times. Korea still has a great deal of these period piece TV shows. Now, of course, Japan has their period piece movies. But TV, I guess Korea holds on to their genres very strongly.
So what do you do when you've got a generation that doesn't really want to see the serious period stuff as much? Well, you have to compensate by getting really, really dramatic and slightly trendy dramas, like Brilliant Legacy.
Brilliant Legacy, a pretty dark and often gripping drama. I don't think that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's simply something that you probably need to get used to seeing. Now, please, don't think I'm saying this is a bad drama. This is a really good drama. I mean, the characters are all very realistic. I mean, even the character named Hwan, I suck at Korean, don't sue me. Even he has some darkness and some brightness to him, and he's trying to figure himself out. And I mean, even the stepmother of let me get it right. Eun-woo. The stepmother also has these conflicting feelings and is wrestling with them. It's a very well acted and well written and well directed drama. You could see everybody worked hard for this. It's just something you have to kind of psych yourself up to see in the beginning, at least. Which is probably why a lot of these shows are featured on Saturday and Sunday nights around the same time. Most of these dramas in Korea are Saturday and Sunday. Most of the dramas in Japan could be any time. And of course, a lot of them are the trendy dramas, and so you come home from work and you're going to see a drama that's going to, you know, pump up your spirits. This is not that kind of drama. This is a drama that features life insurance money, children being thrown out of the house, deals with suicidal tendencies, losing family members, just a lot of struggle in a really good way. So what do I take from that? For Korea, very multifaceted. They will seek every demographic. They will take a love story and they'll inject war into it and inject a car scene where people are really cool and the guys are all competing with each other, and they'll inject something for the kids, and then they'll pack so much stuff in to something that seems on the outside like something superficial, and you're really watching 4 or 5 different kinds of shows smacked together. But you do get the sort of urbane kind of feeling. You kind of get to know what it feels like to be an everyday person over there by watching probably the more serious dramas, but even some of the lighthearted ones. Okay, so this is going to be number 3 coming up. It's going to be China, and we'll see you in a bit. Thanks for watching this incredibly long video. See you.